my shoulders cold. I've got to leave here before I go. I pull my shirt on, walk out the door, drag my feet along the floor. I pull my shirt on, walk out the door, drag my feet along the floor. Then I see you, you're walking across the campus, cool professor studying romances. How am I supposed to pretend I never want to see you again? How am I supposed to pretend I never want to see you again? Walk to class in front of ya, spilled coffee on your cafe. You look inside and turn to the door, drag your feet along the floor. Then I see you, you're walking across the campus, cool professor studying romances. How am I supposed to pretend I never want to see you again? How am I supposed to pretend I never want to see you again? In the afternoon, you're out on the stony grass, and I'm sleeping on the balcony after class. In the afternoon, you're out on the stony grass, and I'm sleeping on the balcony after class. In the afternoon, you're out on the stony grass, and I'm sleeping on the balcony after class. In the afternoon, you're out on the stony grass, and I'm sleeping on the balcony after class.
There's a sad sort of clanging from the clock in the hall, and the bells in the... I'm at a payphone.
All right, good afternoon, scientists. Thanks for logging on to Zoom and joining us for class today. Let's go ahead and do our double checks before we get started. Make sure you guys have typed your name in the chat so that I can mark you present for today. Double check that you've got enough battery power to last you through class, and if not, go grab that plug quickly and get yourselves powered up. Also double check that you have whatever else you need. Maybe take a moment also to do a little stretching Maybe close your eyes for a second. Hopefully you took a lunch break, but for those of you who have still been at your computers this whole time, this is your last class of the day. So take a moment to close those eyes and give your eyes a break from your screen. I hope you all have a good weekend. I'm going to let a few more people in before I switch our slides to our agenda. Welcome. For those just joining, again, make sure you guys put your name in the chat so that I can mark you present, please. Taking a look at our plan for today. Happy March. It is March 1st, a brand new month. We are working on wrapping up our essential question of how are organism interactions impacted by resource availability in an ecosystem. Our goal is to be able to discover and describe how organism interactions are impacted by resource availability in an ecosystem. Our agenda, you all had your welcome time to listen to our music and say hello to each other. Go through some reminders and announcements for the month of March and a little bit into April. We're going to wrap up our Nearpod that we were working on from last class to review the bunny simulation for those of you who were unable to get all the outcomes, and just kind of review and wrap that up. And then we will try to see how we are doing with our ecosystem vocabulary and knowledge by playing a round of Book It, which you guys asked to play more of that. So we will play a round of that at the end of class. And then we'll take some time to take a peek at your self-paced independent work for the week, which is going to be assignment number 15, which is your Explorer's Journal, High Desert. So you're going to be reading someone's journal of their adventures in the Joshua Tree Desert. And you will be looking at the animals they found and trying to, again, practice your vocabulary to classify those things. So, of course, this assignment is due on Friday at the end of the week. So make sure you write that down somewhere. Other things you might want to write down in our reminders and announcements section. Next week is our student-led conference week, March 8th through 12th. You'll be putting your final touches and practicing your slide decks and advisory this week. You hopefully finished your science slides up last week, so those should be ready to go for you. We'll also have a special schedule next week. I do not have a copy of that yet, so when I get it, I will share it with you so that we don't get lost next week. Also, next week on Friday, your late work deadline is the 12th. So if you want anything to count for your report card period that ends on March 19th, make sure you get it to me by the 12th, so that way I have a week to get my homework done and grade everything and update everything in the computer system. As I think as by now you guys probably notice that sometimes things take a little while to sync up. And then again, yeah, your next grading period, so your third report card or P3 ends on March 19th. So that's in 2 weeks. And then you will have your last and final quarter, P4. And we will be in our last bit of school. Spring break also to look forward to, March 29th through April 2nd. It's nice that March is very well aligned, as in our first day back for the month is the 1st. So easy way to count down to spring break there. Any questions about scheduling our student-led conferences before we move on? Again, remember, even if you're not doing a student-led conference, you still have to do your slides. If the times don't work for your, yeah, so everybody should be doing the slides. We would like as many people to do a conference as well, because I think it's good for you to have practice presenting, and it's also good for you guys to have some time to talk to your families, because I know not everybody talks about school with their families. And I know that there are probably some people who maybe don't talk very much with their families at all for various reasons. But we do want everyone to do the slides, and we'd like as many people to try to do the conferences. But yeah, we do know that some parents and people are still working and that their work schedules may not allow for it during the time. So you can also just present to your advisory teacher. I had a lot of my 8th graders who they couldn't get any family members to come. So they just did their slide presentation to me because they wanted that experience and that practice. So that's always an option too. Any other questions? Feel free to put them in the chat while I switch my screen. Yep, you can still sign up for it. So your advisory teacher will probably bug you about it on Wednesday and give you guys more info if you need it. I'm going to switch over to our Nearpod. I am sharing the link, but you guys don't actually need to be on the Nearpod unless you really want to. You can just look at my screen for this. You guys already logged in, so I know that you participated the other day, so you don't have to re-log in unless you really want to. But as a reminder, we had our FET Natural Selection Bunny Simulator, and we were trying to accomplish a few things here. So in our simulator, we were trying to get bunnies to take over the world. We were trying to get our bunnies to all die off, and we were trying to keep everything alive. So we're going to take a moment to do that together and just point out some of the resources that are here and how that's affecting our ecosystem with the goal of answering our essential question. So starting off with our simulator, I have a bunny. I can give that bunny a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It's summer. I have not limited any resources. I have not added a predator, so I have a really simple food chain or food web going on right now of sunlight feeding my plants getting eaten by my bunny. So a really simple food web there. And I can watch what happens over time. I can see that there are more and more bunnies. And more bunnies. And even more bunnies. Until there are so many bunnies that our bunnies have taken over the world. So in this scenario, our bunnies had unlimited resources and no pressure on them. They had no restrictions on food. Yeah, there's definitely no social distancing here. So our bunnies have taken over the world because they were given unlimited resources. They had all the food they needed, and they also had nothing to worry about because there were no wolves to eat them. Now, if we start this over and we limit a resource or we reduce a resource like food, so now you'll notice there is less grass or green, whatever shrub this is. Again, I can add another bunny. We can watch what happens here. You see, we're following a similar pattern to what we saw last time. We're seeing more bunnies. And more bunnies. Oh, but then we lost some bunnies. And then again, we have more bunnies. And then we lose some bunnies. So if you look at the graph that it's creating on the bottom here of our population, we can see we have that fluctuating pattern. Our bunnies are going up, our bunnies are going down, our bunnies are going up, our bunnies are going down. And again, that's because there's this limited resource. So when you limit food, there's only so many bunnies that it can support. And when it exceeds that capacity or that many bunnies, we see a die off and we lose some of our bunny population. We call this term carrying capacity. So now we see we're stuck in a fluctuating pattern. We can add a predator now and see how that affects things. And then here we see with this scenario, when we limit food and we add it in a predator, so we add it in another level to our food chain there, we see that all of our bunnies have died. And then we also have to think about our wolves are eating our bunnies, right? So our wolves are also going to meet that same outcome because their food source is now gone. And again, this is one of the reasons why we study food webs and food chains a lot in ecosystems, because there is So again, with our bunnies here, so again, our food chain, we see that if we limit that base resource, that bottom part of the food chain, as we move up, it's going to affect our bunnies, and it's going to also affect the wolves in sort of a domino situation. We can start this over one more time. We can not limit food. We can give our bunnies some time to reproduce. And I can add wolves in now that there is a good enough bunny population. And here we can see we have achieved more of a balance. We have enough bunnies to support our wolf population, and that's because our bunnies have enough food that they have enough to eat. But there's not bunnies just taking over the world because their population is also being controlled or kept into check by the wolves. So you can see that every component in our ecosystem is necessary. You can also think about how food is probably the most important resource, as many of you guys correctly identified in our last reflection question that we had, that energy or food was the most important because, again, these connections in our food chain affect everything that comes after it. And we can also see that it might intensify things like competition. For example, if we were having a class party and I bought enough pizza for every table to have one pizza, there'd probably be no problems. We'd probably have leftover food and have lunch for tomorrow. But if I only bought one pizza for all 30 of us, there would probably either be some fighting or some people who end up without pizza. So we'd increase our competition. All right, I'm going to pull up our game here so that we can play a review round and check your understanding of our vocabulary that we've been working on. We'll take requests for what mode we want to play. We're going to avoid tower defense, though. We tried that and it was terribly confusing. I see a request for Gold Quest again. I see this request, second it and third it. All right, let's go with that then. Let's go ahead and do 10 minutes. Not 30, that's too long. Why? There you go. All right, anyone else still trying to join, or can I go ahead and start the game?
Start.
Start the game, okay.